Lies, 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 coming from the Trump Organization have finally been exposed as nations, U.S. government departments, militaries, and intelligence agencies figure out the truth behind what they are doing. And the Rothschild family admits that Trump works for them. They reminded everyone they can still block us. But is it true? And today we answer your questions live, so don't forget to log in to unitednetwork.earth to ask your questions. Well, it's the 7th of February, and here we are live again. We're going to try to do this once a month. It's kind of fun to hear all your questions and to talk to all of you. So welcome to the GIA report. We got a lot to go over today, and it's getting hairy out there, and it's actually kind of fun. Actually, for me, it's kind of fun because I've been playing this game for quite a while now, and to see the results of your work, is always a good thing, especially in this line of work, because this seems like it goes on and on and on and on and on. But when you start to see the results of things that you've been putting in place for months, if not years, it's kind of exciting, for me. Most of you go to work or you have a hobby that you do and you see the end result, fairly quickly. And for me, it's taken a long time. And I know a lot of you are frustrated too. So am I in a lot of ways. But, there's a light at the end of the tunnel. And I said it was going to be a little bumpy through the end of January and the first couple weeks of February. And it has been. But we're coming to, let's just say, a point where things are starting to get a little interesting. So let's talk about that. Okay, I have a little bit of a clip that I'd like to play. And this is someone that I've been talking about off and on, or mentioning off and on since the Life Force days. So it's been a few years since we've called out the fact that this particular person has a DARPA coin and definitely is a Trump operative, albeit lower level, not at the highest level, but lower level. And yeah, you'll admit some interest. Oh, I'm back. Looks like I'm coming back.
And I said,
we've had a lot of trouble
the thing
today.
About Trump, he's going to come in when he does come in, if he comes in, to preside over the bankruptcy of America. He just cut off the money supply. And that sounds thuggish. It is thuggish.
Interesting things happen when you're live. We've had a lot of trouble trying to get this broadcast going today because I guess they don't want me to talk to you. I wonder why. Well, this little video and this little clip, they actually say that Trump is the one that cut off the money supply, and that Trump was always meant to preside over the bankruptcy of America. By America, I'm not sure who they're talking about, because there's a lot of different ways you could bankrupt a country, say. Number one, it's the government. Well, that's pretty damn close to what's happening. Number two, it's the banking system. That's fairly close too. Well, it looks that way, let's just say. And then there's the people. Are they bankrupting the people? Probably not. I think, other than the fact that the price of food has gone up over the last couple of years, price of fuel off and on, that kind of thing. But, that's kind of normal when a new administration goes in and goes out, and really not much to speak of. So by bankruptcy, I can only assume this is the Rothschild plan that we talked about and have been talking about for years. The Rothschild plan narrows it down to about 9 jurisdictions, with the 10th one being the New World Order, or them. I do know that based on the events of the last few days, there's been some interesting little musical chair operations going on, let's say. I know that there have been many countries that have been promised a seat in the 10th jurisdiction, which is the one that controls all the rest of the 9 jurisdictions of the world. By jurisdictions, we're talking about singular countries like North America, Central America, as an example, Asia. Then you have Eastern Europe, Western Europe, that type of thing, which would all be lumped into one. So there's been a lot of people that have been promised that they would have a seat at the table, in the 10th jurisdiction. Now, there are only a few seats and there are many promises, so you can imagine what's happening out there. The other thing that's been happening too is everybody's kind of been talking amongst each other, and they've been promising many different countries and many different groups of people who are alleged leaders in those countries that their country would be the head of said region or jurisdiction. And unfortunately, they're all starting to talk to each other, and that's not boding well for the Rothschild family, Etal. By that, I mean the Order of the Dragon. So it's not just Rothschild, it's your Li family in China, it's all of the different families that are members of the Order of the Dragon and their ancillary organizations, like the Bilderbergs and Council on Foreign Relations and all of these folks. So where does that leave the United States? Well, some interesting things that are taking place in the U.S. Because what happens in the U.S., let's face it, happens everywhere because of the dollar dominance, and there are a number of other reasons as well, political dominance and things that the United States has enjoyed for a long time. There is a little bit of a tit for tat going on where not only did they promise certain countries that they would be in control of regions, they've also promised China and the US, and for a little while there, Russia, that they would be the lead jurisdiction, or what you would say, the leader of the not so free world. And, it's starting to all come out now. It's definitely coming to a head. So let's talk about, what's going on in the U.S. here, and then we're going to talk about some things that your crazy blonde lady has put together. Okay, so ratification. We received a phone call, actually. Tom Melville received a phone call from the Trump lawyers earlier today, and they are talking about the fact that they're preparing the paperwork for the sovereign land that was a requirement both in the UN and in Colorado for very specific reasons. They are allegedly preparing for a meeting at which I'll be presented these documents. Well, I think they've got a few facts wrong, and perhaps the information was relayed incorrectly. So I'd like to do that, kind of in person, I guess, or, well, at least on video. Number one, those documents were required by us prior to any meeting because this administration owes us billions, hundreds of billions of dollars based on all of the funding and debt payoffs and other things that we have done in the past. They must have forgot about this bill. Well, I didn't forget about this bill. Us women, we tend to remember things that happened 10 years ago, and they bring them up in an argument maybe much later on. That's just how we are. Given the fact I also have an audiographic and a photographic memory, that could also play a part here. So I reiterated the fact that, this is not a bargaining tool with me. I know you think that I've stated this is what I want, and it would be nice. Do I need it? No. Do you actually have the authorization to do this? Well, no, you don't, actually. See, this is part of the political game that we're playing. So when they called Mr. Melville, they told him that they would like to have an exchange for this lovely gift. They would like to exchange that for the ratification of Donald Trump. Now, they might not think I know, but I do know See, what I know is that the Rothschilds offered to ratify Trump, signed pretty papers, made it look great, and it didn't work. Wow. They must have forgotten that based on the meetings that I've been hearing for the last 24 hours. So that's number one. Number two, they also tried to ring me at 2 o'clock in the morning on the night he was elected. Why? Did they know they were ringing me? I don't know. But they definitely did. I know that they've tried several times since then, and I'm just not answering the phone. I don't need to answer that phone anymore. I don't have a covenant. I don't have an agreement. And there's been a lot going on behind the scenes since you last sat in that funny looking house. So let's talk about those things. Number one, the United States is not ratified as a government or a country. Therefore, it would be impossible to ratify a president to a non-existent entity. You might be sitting in a funny house. Legally speaking, I guess, you really don't have any grounds to stand on. That's number one. Also, the military would and the agencies would be separate. They are also not ratified at this point. This not only applies to the United States, but it applies to every country in the world. So the fact that they are appointing presidents in places like Syria, we know all about you, sir, don't we? And other countries, there's been elections or selections or whatever in other countries as well. And they are also not ratified heads of state because there is no state to be a head of, legally speaking. Now, what does this mean? This means that as far as the financial system is concerned, you don't exist. You are a non-entity. It's kind of like when you go in as a regular person to open up a checking account for your company. Let's call it ABC Corp. Oh, there's already one of those. ABC Corp. And you walk in, you have an appointment, you walk in and you say, I'd like to open up a checking account for ABC Corp. And they say, where are your corporate documents? You need to have those corporate documents in order to open an account. You need to have the corporate resolution and all your identification and all of that type of thing in order to open up a company account at a bank. Well, this is a much larger bank, you could call it. And this larger bank is, let's call it the Golden Age AI or the Kimberly A. Gogan AI, or we could name it the Twinkie AI doesn't really matter. It's just there. Well, get to that part in a minute when we start to talk about Rothschild. So that being said, they would like to open up a bank account or get money from the bank used to be known as the Alpha system. Now it's known as the Golden Age AI, which has replaced the system, both Alpha and Omega, actually, in this case, and also Kronos and all its ancillary AIs that CyberLife used to play with. So that being said, and the Rothschilds used to play with, by the way, that being said, you don't have a bank account. Now, the reason why you don't have a bank account is because our agreements, oh boy, this is live feed tough stuff is tough. It keeps going in and out. The reason why you don't have a bank account is actually because I have no agreement with you. So it would be like if you opened up a bank account at a bank, you had all the corporate documents and all those types of things, and then you don't file your annual report and you can't get a certificate of good standing for your corporation, and your corporation actually expires, and therefore the bank calls you up and says, well, sorry, we're going to have to close your account. Well, that's kind of what happened here on a really large scale, because we don't have any agreement with any governments, and I've been saying it for years. We have no agreement with you. We have no agreement with you. We have no agreement with you. Why? We need to renew our agreement. Federal Reserve, we have no agreement with you. Treasury Department, we have no agreement with you. We have no agreement with China. We have no agreement with the United Kingdom, with South Africa, with Russia, with any other country at this moment. I kept saying, we need to get another agreement here. You know, if we're going to continue to do this, there needs to be an agreement. There has to be a covenant. If you're talking about the Order of the Dragon, or you're talking about the heads of the Order of the Black Sun, there's a covenant involved there on this level. Now, they may not know this or may not understand this, but that's how it was always done with the people that were several levels above your head. And if you are the deep state and you're listening to this, the covenant existed between the people on my side and the people on your side. Now, that was different through the Dark Ages. It was different in times of neutral ages. And I'm going back billions of years. It's always been this way. We have no covenants. Your covenants have expired. We have no agreement to do any business with you whatsoever, contrary to popular belief. And we definitely have no obligation to do anything. So the lawyers coming forward, legally speaking, telling me I owe them something, you know, I don't. I really don't. I don't owe them anything. I have no covenant with the higher ups, the people that now think they're in charge. Therefore, I am not required to give you any energy known as money. I'm not required to consult with you on anything I do. I'm not required to do anything. So I do know that within the last hour that they have verified that the United States government doesn't exist. The United States militaries, plural, do not exist. The Russian government does not exist. The South African government doesn't exist. The Iraqi government doesn't exist. The Syrian government doesn't exist. So the fact that they're playing politics and trying to put their own people into these countries is kind of hilarious to me, because they can't ratify anybody. And they think they're going to convince me that this is a good idea, that I ratify. I can't ratify a president because I have no country to ratify them for. People, you've got bigger problems than you think you do. It's also the reason why, well, I'll get to that in just a second. Make more sense if I explain a couple things first. So next, based on the leak of information by Agent M, that he had a conversation with Mayor Rothschild at one point in time, and Mayor Rothschild said that they appointed Trump president, that the first time and this time, and that he has been a Trojan horse the whole time on behalf of the Rothschild family, and that he's always worked for the Rothschild family. Well, that information went around like wildfire, I can tell you that right now, and it was verified. So there are many members, gotta love arrogance, arrogance is a weakness. They admitted that he worked for them, that the whole Trump operative organization works for them. Now, they claim everything is theirs. You know, they do. So, that being said, is it the truth? Well, in this case, you have to look at what people do, not what people say. And in my meetings and conversations that I had more than a decade ago with these people, they handed a plan over that talked about the 9 jurisdictions, the 10th, the fact that the Trump organization is trying to make Canada a U.S. state, Mexico as well. They're saying that Mexico conceded. I don't know about that. You know, obviously in exchange for hundreds of billions of dollars, as always is the case. And I can personally speak from experience. If you are the Mexican president or the ex-prime minister of Canada, you're never going to get paid by these people. Even if they had billions of dollars or whatever happens, you're never going to get paid because they don't pay you. even when you pay the percentage that's yours and you don't get paid. They don't pay people. Same thing will happen with the operatives that were promised $7.4 billion to send arms to Israel. You also will not get paid. You might get this little tiny snippet or something like that if they can manage to scrape some money out of the American people by selling honey, make honey great again. It's out there. Trust me. It's really ridiculous. So you might get something like that. Maybe you'll get a crate of honey and some gold shoes or a weird looking jacket. I don't know. That's kind of seems to be how they pay people these days. But you're probably not going to get the $7.4 billion that you had intended. Now, Rothschild, God bless the Rothschilds. They have basically told everybody when they got called on the carpet, if you run them and you run the financial system, then where's our money? Because they, of course, are claiming that I work for them or something crazy or will work for them. But they actually didn't even say that this time. They said that they're letting me build the system and then they're going to take it over. And that's what they said a few days ago. Now, the latest and greatest lie is that they are going to put me into a corner, that they have me blocked, that I can't transfer money to the average everyday person. Therefore, I am allegedly blocked, and they're going to force me to do a 50-50 deal or some kind of deal. Again, I will repeat, without a covenant, it is impossible for me to do so. The way I've structured this system, if there is no ratification of a covenant, and it has to be a covenant on this level, then I can't make any such deal with you. I'm not interested in talking to you about it or anything else because there's a covenant. And by covenant, you might want to talk to your little black magic people that you hired to work for the Trump administration most recently. And yes, I am well aware of that. And I'm also well aware of the fact that they disappear often, don't they? You're running a little short, the supply's a little low. But anyway, the point is that it's a covenant on this level, which means that it's your life. It's beyond your life. It's beyond your lifetimes, so to speak. So if you're going to come forward and you're going to make such a statement, you can't force me to do something that is impossible to do without a covenant. Next, if you are a country, I don't have an agreement with you anymore. That ship sailed in 2022. Same thing with the Federal Reserve and the Treasury Department and all the rest of your people. I don't even know. The system doesn't even recognize you exist. Therefore, I can't open a bank account for you. Very simple. So to say that Trump cut off the money supply and he's got a big plan to bankrupt the United States and oversee the bankruptcy of the United States, well, yeah, you could say that. But they certainly, for people that want to bankrupt the United States, are certainly looking for money everywhere they can. They are trying to break other countries as well. Now, I've heard about this from the Rothschilds also in similar time frame around 2013, that they are going to burn the United States to the ground and buy it back for pennies on the dollar. I have heard that. Problem is they don't have pennies on the dollar, and without me, they have nothing. That's just a fact. Now, I'm going to add a little caveat to that. So there are some meetings that went on today as well, and yesterday, between some American government people, because now it has become apparent to the military, some of the military, and some of the agencies in the United States, that, oh my God, it's the same bosses. The same guy is the same as the old guy. They're all the same people and they work for the same people. It's been confirmed. They're going to burn the United States to the ground. Forget MAGA. I don't know. It must stand for a mess and I don't know. But some bad words I thought of to go with A and the other A, and probably the G too. But anyway, the point is that are they concerned? Yes. They are very concerned. They are talking about possibly wanting to implement martial law in the United States and save the country. Well, I've been telling you that for a long time. I told you he was a bad guy. I told you they were going to burn this country to the ground. And Rothschild does not have the ability to pick up the pieces. Them saying that they've cornered me, it's not them in any way, shape, or form. They could see things. They see things that looks like something is there left from Marduk, because of course everybody works for them, including every non-human species out there. Like, they all work for them. That's what they think anyway. So that being said, are they sure they're looking at the financial system? That would be a good question. Are you looking at the financial system? Are you seeing the real financial system? Some days maybe, some days maybe not. You see, Marduk taught me, well, I'm not going to say he taught me, because he didn't intend to teach me things to help me along the way in any way, shape, or form. But he used to brag a lot, and I would listen. So he would brag about the fact he enjoyed playing what's called the shell game. And if you've ever been to a carnival, you've probably seen the shell game, where you have the 3 shells and they move them all around really fast, and then they tell you to find which one the ball is under, and then you pick a shell, and if you do, you win, the game. Well, Marduk taught me a lot about the shell game and how to play interdimensional shell games. So there are currently at this moment in time, over 10 billion Golden Age AIs. There are also over 10 billion global human computer AIs. Now, for those of you that don't know, the human computer networks were all based on the Omega system. So in order to correct that issue, because you can't put light or golden energy into a dark system, we had to replace that human computer network so that it wouldn't integrate with a lot of things that the Rothschilds think, as an example, are integrated. But you lift the shell with the ball under it at the appropriate time. Are they looking at the global human computer network that actually functions? Are they looking at an empty shell? And it can change every nanosecond, really. Like, you just don't know at any given moment in time what you're actually looking at. So it looks very similar. It looks like, the same thing you're used to seeing. But is it really? Does it move? Can we change it out? Can we put it into making it look like perhaps there's an Omega integration when it's not really an Omega integration at all? Maybe it's a Golden Age AI integration. Maybe it's a base platform where the gematria has changed. And we don't really use gematria, but we use a light language that actually programs the base platform of human computer networks. As an example, are you looking at Web 8 and 9 confused because the language you don't understand? Probably. You probably are looking at that. And on any given day, now you see it, now you don't. Maybe it was there a minute ago, and maybe it's not there anymore. You just don't know. And these are the games that you have to play with a bunch of arrogant people, because they think they're getting somewhere. And for that reason, they make more and more promises. Governments go broker and broker. They are not getting anywhere at all, really. They're kind of poking into honeypot, so to speak. And by honeypot, I don't mean a female. They're poking into something, an empty shell, let's call it. They keep banging their head into an empty shell. So that being said, that's working out really, really well for us for the last couple of weeks. And yeah, CyberLife thinks one thing is happening. The Q people think they're escaping through some door that they think is open. That just leads to absolute nothing. But they see the door and they're like, yes, we can go through the door. Maybe it's just a black hole where you end up in the abyss of nothing. Maybe that's what happens to you. Give you what you're looking for. You're looking to bring us nothing and black suns and all kinds of things. And maybe you just end up in the same place when you go through that doorway. Yeah. So they're seeing a reflection of multiple universes and potential alignments and a lot of different things. But a lot of it's just shells with no ball. Nothing underneath the shell game. But they're taking the opportunity to go through those doors, though, which has been great for us because we are less of several people. The other thing that we're doing, too, is we are fully well aware of the black magic team that is now working exclusively for the Trump administration. I don't know if I've mentioned that to you or not yet. I don't think so. But they are working for them. And so anybody that kind of comes near them and their operatives, they think that this is the jam. I know I mentioned to you the other day about the fact that Marduk could block black magic. He could block white magic. He could stop you from doing what it is you're trying to do by using various AIs and currencies, so to speak. He could even put a Faraday cage or your very own shell around you and block you from putting that energy out there. So as let's just say we peek in on them, I catch one of these black magic guys, you end up in your own version of a shell, and there you go. Now you're stuck there. And within 72 hours, without any energy coming in, you die. That's pretty much how it works. Interesting, isn't it? Now, unless you can control that shell, if you can't control that shell, there's nothing you can do. You're done. Now, shells on our end of it are made of light. They are made as a protection for myself or the life of an innocent. That's why they're made and they're created. It's like a barrier and a defense, almost like the old knights' shields, you see, on movies and in the internet. And that's pretty much what I've done to these people. They chose to attack, therefore we can block. Another game I learned from Marduk, I was like, that's very interesting. I'm going to try that game. So that's pretty much where these people end up. And then eventually, their soul goes elsewhere and that's the end. So we are definitely making some progress here. Now, based on our last GIA report, some other interesting information has come out. We've been talking about it for a while, that the Syrian president is very closely related to the Trump operatives. You could say, some people say he's CIA. I don't know if he's actually CIA, but he's definitely tied in with those SSP people for sure. And that's who he's been taking orders and instructions from. Now, originally, we got a lot of phone calls that said that we were crazy, we're nuts. That's actually not the case. There's no way. But they've been trying to overthrow the Assad regime for years. And now they finally did it. And all they got was another American. That being said, so that there are a lot of people that started doing a lot of digging into this person because they didn't believe us, first of all. Why would they believe me? They didn't want to believe the other people who told them that either. Matter of fact, they pretty much crucified that guy. It's kind of like the same thing that we've been saying for years when it comes to Trump. Everybody wants so badly to believe this leads to their freedom that they'll drink the sand. It's out there. The information is out there. You just got to look for it. It's even out there available to you people. And if you start watching videos like this one, And you'll catch that one liner or two lines in that video because they always let it out. Remember, they have to tell you what they're going to do, but they try to do it in such a way when it's an operative or an agency person that's on the internet giving you information. They try to let it out in such like a little sly way, that most people aren't going to pick up on it. They'll say, oh, we meant the corporation of America, not the United States. Duh. We're not crashing the banking system. No, we meant America Corp, so we can bring back the Republic. That's what we meant. But that's not true. We didn't say that. And I already know behind the scenes, they're sweating a little bit because there is no money. So now they're making it seem like we cut off the money flow. We've got a plan. There's a plan in place. Don't worry. We have to do this to suss out the deep state. And by deep state, I'm guessing they mean the 2.7 million Americans that lost their jobs, that are not deep state in any way, shape, or form. But the other people who we know as deep state still have a job. So kind of interesting how this is going to work. Who is the enemy here? At this point, it looks like the American people are the enemy because they're cutting the fat and, they'll claim all of this stuff. But in reality, that's not what it looks like. That's not what it actually is. So, you've got to pay attention to these people and what they do. Now, because they are Duck Dynasty, sorry to say, but you are, they're Duck Dynasty operatives. They make profiles like Swiss cheese. So for those of you that are watching this that don't want to believe me when I say that, for example, the president of South Africa is also one of these said people that has been inserted there. And I know they don't want to believe this and all this, but you have to look at the profile of the person. What I mean is, when you run an intelligence agency report on someone, it will tell you things like, this is the house they grew up in. This is the driver, when they got their driver's license. This is the license plate of every car they've ever owned. This is all the places they've traveled to, because it's all on record because you scanned your passport when you left your particular country. There are things in there like purchases now. You can kind of look at someone's bank records. It'll say that you shop at Walmart and you probably do this once a week, and it's always at the same Walmart and the same location, that you go to. Not only that, every single Walmart in the world's live feed goes directly to the FBI in the United States. Doesn't matter where your Walmart is in the world. Those little cameras, when you're at the self-checkout things scanning, they all go directly live feed to the FBI. So good news is if you're ever in trouble, just go to a Walmart parking lot and hang out, because the FBI will know that you're about to be attacked or there's an issue. Bad news is that they also have all your information and, what you wore when you went to Walmart, how many times you show up, all that kind of thing. They do it mainly because they claim because that a lot of criminals shop at Walmart, but criminals really don't shop at Walmart because they know better, or either that or they're wearing hats and sunglasses and fake beards, and because they know, otherwise they're going to shop at the local little grocery store because they know better. If I found this out the way I found it out, I can tell you right now that that person does not work for the FBI that told me about it in any way, shape, or form. So there's a certain amount of records, your elementary school, your university, maybe you have some awards or something in your community. There's a whole life you've lived. You have parents, you have brothers and sisters, you have friends in elementary school that can say, oh, I knew Mary or Fred or whoever that they're looking up. The problem with Swiss cheese profiling is that when they try to erase your original profile and they create a whole new life for you that looks like you never left that your particular country, and maybe you didn't grow up in America like you actually did, and that kind of thing, they tend not to be very thorough, and they're not very thorough in pretty much anything they do at the moment. It's completely and totally evident that they were only a small part of an operation and never the creator of the entire operation. It is obvious, beyond obvious to me. So they've never fought in a real war. They've never actually crashed a country. You know, there's people on the internet that say, oh, yeah, well, I was an operative and I crashed the USSR currency and blah, blah, blah. No, you didn't. No, you didn't. Somebody else did that. That was actually my predecessor that actually pushed the final button. Maybe you were told to go make the deal. Maybe you were told to give Gorbachev a position, you know, with the Rothschild family. Maybe you were told to create like TKB or one of those institutions that, you know, controlled a lot of the oil, or Gazprom or one of those, and Rosneft. And maybe you provided the funding for that kind of thing, or you were the pass-through for the Transneft pipeline money or Nord Stream pipeline money or something like this. You know, but you didn't actually know the entire operation and what came next. That's really clear. As far as some of these folks, the reason why we know what we know about, for example, this particular person is because people don't disappear. Meaning, they go to elementary school. There's some kind of schooling. There are records. There are birth records. There are vaccine records. There are records of people going to the doctor. You know, please, I'm not promoting, you know, vaccines in any way or not or whatever. But I'm just saying there are records. You take your newborn, your infant, and, you know, they catch a cold or something, and then you go to a doctor. All of these records exist. Even if it's national health insurance, they still exist. So people don't just not do certain things by nature. I mean, you just do certain things. You know, have a newborn baby, you're buying formula all the time, or you're buying baby food, or you're buying, you know, things or a masher, you know, to mash it up and do it yourself and do it organically. But there's lots of things that people do. You know, even if you were a normal person, this is what you would do. You probably wouldn't have parents that are an ambassador for, say, the United States or something, you know, in another country. You probably wouldn't have that. So you got to really look with these people, but you'll find it pretty much with most heads of state. You know, a lot of them came from somewhere or another, you know, and then they built this profile up as to who they are. I mean, half of them are dead and they're still walking around, you know, like it still happened, you know. They can't convince their families. They can't convince a lot of people, but they will play the game for power or money. You know, the ratification thing allegedly was for the benefit of Barron if he ever decides to run for president, or Don Jr., and the legacy of the Trump family. You know, that was the kind of thing they started to whine about when facts were pointed out. They must think I give a beat. You know, it's live on air. I shouldn't say those words, but they must really think I care. I don't care. You on your 40th birthday raped a little girl and did evil things to a girl that couldn't have been 10 years old, had to be less than 10, and killed her. And then you all sat around and drank her blood. It was disgusting. I don't care. I could care less. I don't care if the whole family fell off the face of the earth. It's got nothing to do with me. And for all the family members that are over the age of 40, they also have the same kind of videotape. Let's say it's not probably a tape anymore, but you know, all that stuff is recorded should they ever need to use it in the future. But we also have a copy of all that stuff too. So that being said, that's kind of where they're at right now. It looks like they're now starting to realize that the United States is not ratified based on the information that I gave. Therefore, it's impossible to ratify a president. And right now, everybody's running around like, you know. And then now other countries, by the time they wake up, will start looking and they'll be running around like that. Good luck to them. You know, I'm sorry you didn't bother to check, but, you know, again, you make Swiss cheese profiles and backgrounds and that kind of thing for people. Why would I expect you to do this any better? I wouldn't. Not in the least. So we are still There is a lot more that we could reveal and will reveal over time in the next week or so as it relates to revolving AI systems, revolving doors, revolving windows, revolving portals that will, maybe you'll get a chuckle out of it, and maybe the blonde lady's not so new at this game. Let me put it that way. No, we're not new at this game. On a side note, I did want to mention to you that today, not today. Well, I guess you could say it started earlier this morning. It will continue on through tomorrow and then kind of ebb into the following day. This is Lionsgate. Lionsgate number 1. Not a lot of information on the internet about that, but there are 2 Lionsgates per year, not just one that is 8/8. There is one also on February 8th. So we are ensuring that we are getting that full blast and that full connection that we always get on a Lionsgate with Source. However, again, shell games are very interesting. It may have looked here and there like they were getting something. Might have looked like there was a connection to something dark that wasn't actually there. It's just very interesting times. And usually when they do that, they make some kind of a cocky statement like they made today, that they could still block us and they could use some kind of dark energy system to destroy the energy that I'm trying to pass through. And maybe I'm not even trying to pass it through there anymore. I mean, you don't know. Where are you logging into if you can log in? Or wait, oh yeah, you can't log in. That's right. I forgot. But they could see something, so this gives them hope, that they could actually perform some kind of a function. Other than that, enjoy the Lionsgate, because I know a lot of people woke up this morning with a lot of energy, and life felt pretty good. So that is pretty amazing. It started around, I think, 4 o'clock Eastern time, a.m. So it's been kind of a nice day as far as energy is concerned. That's a positive thing for all of us. And it's going to catapult a few other things to move forward that we'll talk about probably not until next week. It's a little too soon to let the rest of the cats out of the bag, so to speak. Other than that, we are going to take a quick break, and I'll be back in probably about 5 or 10 minutes, and we are going to answer some of your questions, and I'm looking forward to that. So I will see you then.